So today we are starting from Java classes and objects. We all know how to create an object. Java is an object-oriented programming language that we all know. Everything in Java is associated with classes and objects, along with its attributes and methods. For example, in real life, a car is an object. The car has attributes such as weight, color, and method. That means, what is that? In the real life, car is an color and the method such as drive, drive, brake, etc. A class is like an object constructor or a blueprint. For create a class, you need to what? Mention that public, that is the access specifier, then the class that you are because you are creating a class, then you need to give the name, then within the curly braces, whatever you want to do, you can do it. I'm not going deeply into that, because the main thing is that creating an object, how to create an object of a class. In Java, an object is created from class. That class we have created, from that class we will create an object. We have already created the class name, so now we can use this to create object. To create an object of main class, specify the class name followed by the object name and use the keyword new. So what is that line? What we have done, first of all, you need each and every Java program, there should be a class, and whatever the program, whatever the coding we will do, that we will do under the class block. So we have created a public class main, and then integer x equals to 5, that is a normal variable. That is a normal variable. That is what? Normal variable. Then public static void main string args. Then within that main method block, that is the syntax of creating an object. That is the syntax of creating an object. What is the syntax? The object you are making for that particular class, for main class, that name as main class. For that class, we are creating the object. That's why, first of all, you need to mention the class name. Then you need to give, you are creating the object, right? Every class have their separate name. Every variable have their separate name. Every method have their separate name. Every array have their separate name. That means you are creating an object. For that object also, there should be a separate name, and that name can be anything. You can give any name to your object. So after giving the class name, what you need to give? You need to give the object name. That name you want to give, whatever the name you want to give. After that, you need to use that equals to, then the new keyword, then that is the main, and that is that there is round braces. And I have already told you, whenever you have seen that there is that round braces is there after any name, there is a round braces, and that is a what? That is a what? Hello? Hello? Whenever you have seen that with that round braces is there open and close.
Method.
That means what? That is a method. That is the identification of a method. Here, that means that is what? That is the method. But see one thing, name is same. That method name and that class name is same, right? That means this is a special kind of method. In Java, there is a special kind of method that is called a constructor. That is called constructor. And that every time, remember, in Java, there is a special type of method, that method name having the same name with class name. That method having the same name with the class name, that method is called the constructor. That means what is this? Main, that first main, that is the class name. Then you need to give that you are creating that object you are creating. For that particular object, you need to give a name. So give the object, that is a keyword, then the constructor you need to write here. After that, termination symbol. That whole line is the syntax of creating an object. Okay. After that, that means, and what is that object? We are creating an object for that class. That means by using that, like suppose that is the variable, right? That is the variable. If I call that variable x, that will return you what? That will return you 5. Can I call that class name? Is it possible to call class name? No, we can't call up by the class name. So that means I just wanted to tell you that, like the variable that have data, that 5, that class having all the things. That means that things, is it possible? No, this is not possible, because whatever we are doing under the class name, maybe, but if I just call that class name, that means that will return you everything. No, this is not possible. So for that reason, just because we can't call by the class name, so for getting anything, for getting some return something, as output, we can't call the class name, but we can call the object name. Because what is an object? Object is the instance of a class. That means what? Object is the instance of a class. Maybe we can't call that class name, but we can call that object name instance of the class name. That means system.out.println my obj.x my obj.x, and if I call by using the class name in that class, and it will return you 5. You guys do one thing. You guys do one thing. That line, that up to this line, done, and that object, do not create that object and don't use that object name. Just do public class main integer x equals to 5 public static void println x. Just execute the program, then tell me what output you are getting. Okay, everyone, please, fast. Just simply create the class. Under the class block, create that variable integer x equals to 5, then create the public static void string args, that main method. Then within that main method, do not create the object, do not create the object name, just system or dot out dot println, and within the round braces, just pass the x, not the object. Do not create the object. Okay, and tell me what is the output you are getting. Everyone, please do fast. Only 4 lines of code is code. Class, create the class, declare the variable, declare the main method, and within the main method, system.out.println, and call the variable x. And tell me what is the output you are getting. You are getting 5.
Yes, sir. It is 5.
You are getting 5. Have you created the object, or you haven't created the object?
So without creating object, I am getting 5.
Yeah, so I'm just stop sharing. You just share your screen. Nah, X. Share your screen, Nisha. Nisha, am I audible? Share your screen.
Sorry, sir, I'm not creating, but I'm just analyzing and
Hello.
see the output. Hello?
Just a minute, Nisha. Yeah, হ্যাঁ স্যার, ক্লাস হচ্ছে। হ্যাঁ, সব পাঠিয়ে দিয়েছি। আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে, আমি দেখে নিচ্ছি। আচ্ছা, আমি দেখে নিচ্ছি। What I have told you to do, to execute the code. Yeah, right.
Okay, yes, sir.
There is a reason why I
Yes,
am
sir.
telling you to execute that code without an object.
Yes, sir.
Then you will understand much better. So please, it's my request. Please execute the code. Don't just imagine anything. Just do whatever I'm telling you to. Anyone else having? Are you getting the output without creating that object? Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, can you share your screen?
Yeah. No, I've shared.
Okay, thank you, sir. Hello, sir. Hello. Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Hello, hello. Am I
Hello.
audible? Hello. Yeah, why you guys
Hello,
are not
sir.
responding? I have just got
So I
two
got the
output.
output.
Yeah, you got the output. That is what error you are
Five,
getting, right?
five, five,
You are
sir.
you are getting five. You are. Please share your screen.
Oh, okay, okay. Sir.
Yeah, I need to make you the host, right? Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah. You are the
Okay.
host now. I have told you don't create the object. I told you without object. Don't create the object, and that don't call that variable without object. Call that variable without object. Remove that object line. That object my obj equals to new obj. That line you just remove, and remove that that system out of printer in the within the round braces, that my obj, that object name you have called. Remove that and execute that program.
So now execute this program.
Yeah, execute that program.
Okay.
Now it is getting what?
Sir, error.
Within that print ln, pass that variable name, that x. What my intention is to print the value of x is 5. That will be that. I just wanted to show you in. So I just wanted to get that output. Look, what error you are getting?
Cannot make a static reference to the non-static field X.
Yeah,
Compilation problem.
but without object, it is not possible to get the output of x. Why? But in the previous example, in the variable session, that we have already run that just to declare the variable, and then just call the variable name and we got the output, right? But
Yes.
here we are not getting the output. Here we are not getting the output. Why we are not getting the output? Now you create the object and use the object name for get the output. Create the object now.
Okay, sir.
Object, then object name equals to new, then object, that just constructor. Termination. Yeah. Now use that before x, my object dot x, that object name, using that object call that variable name. My object, yeah, dot object obj, no, that you object name you have, what object name you have given?
Sorry, sir.
My object.
Video. Sir, OBJ
No, what object name you have given here in the time of object?
object.
My object. Object is what? Object is your class name. My object, after the class name, what you have given? My object. That is your object name. And you need to use that object name for calling that variable. Okay.
Okay.
Now you execute your program. Now are you getting the output?
Yes, sir. 5.
Yeah, you are getting the output now. Now you can stop share your screen and let me share my screen.
Okay. Okay, sir.
And why that variable it's not working, why you are calling that, why it is not working, let me show you. Please make me the host. Now see one thing, in the previous example, that in the previous session, in that whatever the variable we have declared, where we have declared within the main method block, right? Within that main method block, that after public class main, within the class block we have created the main method, then we have declared the variable, whatever the variable we want to declare, right? But here we have declared not under that main block, that main method block, we have created under the class block, then we have created that main method. Then within that main method block we have just created what? We have created that object for that class, and we have using that object to getting that value of x. Why it is not? Just because you have created that variable within the class block, that means this is called the instance variable. This is called instance variable. Okay, whenever you are creating that instance variable, what is that instance variable? Instance variable, whenever you are creating any declaring any variable outside of any method under the class block, not in the method block, that is called the instance variable. And whatever the variable you are declaring within the method block, that is called local variable. So what is it clear? Whenever you are declaring any variable in the class block, not in any method block, that means that is our instance variable. Then whenever you are creating any variable or declaring any variable within the any method block, that time that is called the local variable. So what is the instance variable, what is the local variable? You have I hope you got that. So just because we have declared that variable within the class block, that means this is a instance variable. For accessing whatever is in the class block, for accessing the instance variable without creating object, we cannot access that variable. That's why whenever you are calling that x and want to get the value of x, you are not able to get that value without an object. Whenever you want to access any variable from the class block, not from the method block, whenever you want to get the output or you want to access the variable from the class block, that time you need to create an object for the class. Then you need, by using that object, you can access that instance variable. That means what? That, remember one thing, that is what? Instance variable. And what is an object? Instance of a class. What is that instance variable? What is an object? Object is the instance of a class. That instance terms comes, no? That is the instance variable, and that object is the instance of a class. That is matching, right? That means whenever you want to access that instance variable, that means you need to create an object by using that object name. That means, because whatever, suppose have we completed that method part, or still it is pending? Hello, that
Yes, sir,
method
it is
part,
completed.
yeah, it is completed. Whenever you, I hope you remember, if you remember that whenever we are calling any, we are declare any method, within that method, if I declare any variable, by calling that method name, I can access that variable. That same thing I have declared within the class block. So that means if I can call that class name, that means I can access that variable, but we cannot call any class name. That's why we are creating an object that is instance of a class. By using that object, we can call that variable name. So whenever you are using any instance variable, that means object creation is the necessary thing. Without object, you can't access any kind of variable that is declared within the class block. So we have created that object, and using the object name, we are accessing the instance variable that is declared within the class block. Is it clear? Multiple objects. Create two objects of main. That means multiple objects. In the previous example, we have created only one object for one class, but here we will create multiple objects for us. That public class main, integer x equals to 5, that variable we have declared. Public static void means string args, right? And within that, again, that is instance variable, because I have declared it within the class block. Main, my obj1 equals to new main, my obj1, my obj2, two object I have created here, and two times I am calling the x. That means the output will be two times. Please execute that program. Execute that program, that multiple object. Don't take too much time. The next topic is it clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now we are entering that using multiple classes. Multiple classes. After this, we are working on a single class. Now we will work in multiple class. That means we will work more than one class. See that example? There is two class, public class main, public class second. Two class we have created. Public class main, integer x equals to 5. Within that class, I have declared a variable that is x equals to 5. Class second, public static void main string args main my obj equals to new main. That means we are creating for which class? We are creating object for that main class. System.out.println my obj.x. Can anyone tell me that main and second, which one is the main actual main class? Which one is the actual main class from that two classes? Hello, which one, main or second? Which one is the main class?
Sir, main.java main.
Second, sir.
The
Main.
second one.
The second.
Who have said that main? No, this is not that main class. Why that second is the main class? Why that second is the
So
main?
in second one, we have a public which is access specifier and the static and void,
Yeah, that
the
main method,
main
having that
functions.
main method, which class having that
Yes,
main
sir.
method, that will accept as the main class. Maybe that main is the name is the main, but this is not the main class because that class, in that class there is no main method. But that class second, it have that public static void main string args, that is that having that main method. That's why that second class is the main class, actual main class. Into that main class we are creating, that is a separate class. That variable we have declared, that is an instance variable because that variable is under the class block, not is in the method, any kind of method block, maybe that main method or uh, any method that we are declaring. No, there is no method. That variable we are declaring under the class block. So, and this is a separate class. We are accessing that class variable, that x variable that is under a separate class into that second class, and that is also a separate class. And that main class we have, by creating that main method, public static void main string args, by using that terms, we have created that main method. So that second class became the main method. Just because that x is available in the another class, right? That's your variable, another class. That's why you need to access that class first. That's why we have created an object for that class main. Main my object equals to new main, a separate object we have. Using that object, we are println my obj.x. That means we are accessing the data from another class by creating the object for that particular class. That means we are creating the object for which class? We are creating the object for that class. That class we want to access the data. We want to access the data of main class. That's why. And remember, where you need to create the object, where you need to create the object, that under that class having that main method, within that main method block you need to create that object for that class. For that class we want to access the data. Yeah, that object we are creating, where we are creating under the actual main class having that main method, and within that main method block we are creating that object for that main class, because using that object I can access only using that object of that main class we can access that variable only. That's why we are creating that object. Without object we cannot access that variable from another class that is available in the class block. Is it clear to everyone? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay, execute that program. করেছে এক্সিকিউট কেন দেখো ওখানে কপি করো না, চেষ্টা করো দেখার, পার্ট বাই পার্ট দেখার চেষ্টা করো কোন জায়গাটা প্রবলেম হতে পারে। কোড ছাড়ো, কোড ছাড়ো। কি এরর দেখাচ্ছে? Main method not found in the main class. Class name. Please define the main method as public static void main string up. After other statement, public static যেটা না করছে অনলাইন না করতে অনেক প্রবলেম হয়। এই জন্য বলেছি আইডি না এটা কিন্তু করতে অনেক প্রবলেম হয়, এখানে কোনো এরর নেই, সব কিছু ঠিকই আছে। এখানে যে নতুন ক্লাস আমরা ক্রিয়েট করছি, এখানে ইনহেরিটেড অ্যাবস্ট্রাক্ট মেথড না 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 ওটা না, ওটা সরিয়ে দাও, খালি পাবলিক স্ট্যাটিক ভয়েড মেইনটা তৈরি করো ফার্স্ট। Is it done, everyone? Hello. I'm going to the next topic. Java class attributes. Java class attribute. In the previous chapter, used term variable for x in the example as shown below. It is actually an attribute of the class, or you could say that class attributes are variable within a class. That integer x equals to 5, that is what class attribute variable within a class. But I know. Public class main integer x equals to 5, integer y equals to 3. Another term is are called class attribute fields, access attributes. Now we are object. That same example. I am not going deeply to that. Now we are modifying the attribute. That same example, but a little bit different. What is the difference? Public class main under the class block integer x, that variable we have declared, but we haven't declared any value to that x variable. After that, public static void main string args. Within that method block, we are creating the object for that main class. In that class block, that instance variable we have declared, here we haven't declared any value. Under the method block, after creating the object for that class, now by calling the object, we are doing what? We are declaring the value of x. Now again, system out of println my obj.x. Is it clear, everyone? Hello? Hello? Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Here, that variable we have declared in the class block, I haven't declared any value to that variable. We are declaring the variable where, first of all, we have created the object for that main class under the main method block. Under that, then after creating the object using the object name and then dot, then the variable name. Now here we are declaring the value to that x variable that is available in the class block. Now system.out.println my obj.x. Change the value x to 25. Public class main. Okay. Integer x equals to 10. Public static void main string args. Then we have created the object for that main class. Previously, we have declared the value of x is 10. My obj.x equals to 25. That means what? We are redeclaring a new variable, we are redeclaring a new value to that x variable. From 10, that previous value was 10, and we have redeclared that as 25. Then whenever we are declaring the new variable to that x variable, that means whenever I will execute, I will call that x by calling using the object name that my obj, that will return you the 25. That simple example. That just we are redefining the new value. Now, that is here is the example of final keyword. That final keyword example we have already done, but just the same example is also there. The final variable, what that final variable is. In the previous example, we have done what? We have redeclared a new variable. So it have overridden the value. That value of x first we have declared as 10. Then we redeclared the value of x 10 to 25. That means whenever I will execute that program, that will return you the new value to that x. But here we are using that final keyword. That final keyword will do public class main, and whenever you are before declaring any variable and values, we are using that final keyword. That means we are finalizing the value that x having. That means we are finalizing the value of x is 10. After that, under the main method block, we are creating the object for that main class, because if we want to access that variable integer x10 that is available in the class block, that means this is the instance variable. So for accessing the instance variable, that object we need to create. That's why we are creating the object for that particular class. After creating the object for that class using the object name, we are again redefining a new value. Again, I am redeclaring a new value. So the value can be changed from 10 to 25. But in that case, just because we are using that final keyword before declaring the variable, that's why that x equals to 10. Once we have declared a value to that x, that final variable, after that we cannot override the value of x. That means we cannot change, we cannot assign a new value to that x, because we are using that final keyword. By using that final keyword, we have finalized that the value of x should be 10. Nothing else. We cannot override, we cannot assign the new value to that x. So whenever after that, after assigning new value to that x as 25, after that system out of printed my obj.x that we are doing, that will give you an error because you are using that final keyword. Is it clear, everyone? Anyone having any issue up to this? Hello?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Multiple objects. Again, that's same thing. Multiple objects we have already done. Multiple attributes also have done, but still I will see that example. Public class main, that class name is main, string F name equals to John. The data type is string. F name is the variable name. John is the value. That means we have declared a string type variable here. Another string type variable is L name is do. Int age equals to 24. That three variable or three attribute you have declared within the class block, right? After that, we are creating that public static void main string args. Then we are creating the object for that main class. Main myobj equals to new main. Myobj is the object name of that class name main. System.out.println, what we are doing, name. Look, I have put that name, that colon under the double quote. That means it is a string and that will be printed in your screen as it is. Plus, that means concatenate with my obj.fname, that variable name. That fname variable we are calling using that object name. Because why we are using that object name? Because that variable, that attribute we have declared within the class block, not in the method block. So whatever the variable we are declaring in the class block or accessing that class block variable, that means the instance variable, we need that object of that class. So using that myobj object name, we are dot f name, we are calling that instance variable. Then we are concatenating, and within the double quotes I have given that space. Don't be confused with that two double quotes. That means two double quote, that means that is a string. Even I have put it a space into it. That space is also became a string because that is under the double quote. Maybe that is a space, but this is also a string. Then we concatenate with myobj.lname. Again, we have called the myobj. I have called the lname variable using that myobj object. And another system.out.println, again age is plus myobj age, that instance variable we are calling again using that object name. So then what will be the output? What will be the output? Hello, anyone, please tell me what is the output. What will be the output? If I execute that program, then what will be the output? Hello, am I audible to everyone? Hello,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
yeah, what
So
is the
output is name, colon, and John, then space, then Dio, then in next line age colon 24.
yeah, that will be the output. Very good.
Yes, sir.
Java class methods. Java class methods. We have learned from the Java method chapter in the method are declared within the class. Okay, let's see. Public class main static void my method. That is the method we are declaring. Under that method, that is the method block. Under that method block, we are writing something that is void. There is no return type. So we can write anything. System.out.println hello world, right? Look at that example. Public class main static void my method, that method we have created. Then system.out.println hello world within the method block. Okay. Public static void main string args. That means that is the main method we have created for that class main. That means that class became the main class. Now under that main method block, we are calling my method. So whenever I am calling that my method, that will return you that whatever the content is available under the method block. And here is available what? System.out.println hello world. That hello world will be printed in your screen. Just simply method that you are calling. Now that static and that public keyword. That static and that public keyword. Static versus public. What is the static? What is the public? You will often see Java programs that have either static or public attributes and methods. In the example above, we created a static method. Look at that. We have created a static method, right? We have created a static method, which means that it can be accessed without creating an object of the class. Unlike public, which can only be accessed by objects. That means what is the difference between that static and that public is we have created a static method. That my method, that method we have created, that method is static method, right? And that for that static method, whenever I am calling that my method, that static method we are calling, do I need to use any, am I created any object for that class here? No, we haven't created any object for that class, but we are calling that my method, and that will return you that hello world. That means I can call that method without creating any object, or without any object I can call that static method. But whenever instead of you writing that static, if I write here public void my method, that means what will happen, for accessing that public method, you need to create the object first, then using that object name you need to call that method, because that is the public method. That means what is the difference? Whenever you are creating a static method, for calling that static method you don't need to use any object, but whenever you are using any public, you are created any public method, for calling that public method, first of all you need to create the object. Using that object name you can access that public method. Is it clear? Is it one? Now see that example. Public class main static void my static method. Under that method name system.out.println, that long message I have passed. Another method we have created, public void my public method system.out.println, public method must be called by creating object. That long message, another long message I have passed under the public void my public method. Now first one is the static method, second one is the first one is the static method, second one is the public method. Now let's call the two methods. That's one static method and one is public method. Now we are creating what? We are creating the main method. That is the mandatory thing. So we can make that class as main class, and because without that main method, whenever we will execute your Java program, the JDK will look for the main method, and if that it's not found that main method, that will give you an error. So under that main method block, I am calling that static method. My static method is the name of that static method. And after that, we are calling what? We are creating the object for the main class. That main class, we are creating the object main. My main is the class name. My obj is the object name I have given here, equals to new. Then the constructor, that special method having the same name of with the class. My obj, using that object name, we are calling that my public method, that is a public method. Now what will be the output? Everyone please execute that example and try to do some experiment. Try to call that public method without creating an object and on, and please execute that example. Execute that example and don't take too much time. It's already 1:15. Don't take too much time. Just take 5 minutes and I'm just coming. Is it done, everyone? Am I go to the in the next part? Hello? Should I go to the next
Yes,
part?
sir.
Okay. That is another example for the public method. So this is the public method that we have created. After that, I have passed a message under that method block. Public void speed, another message, int max speed. What is that? A public class main, that class we have created. Under that class block, public void full throttle, that method, that public method we have created. And under that, this is a void method, so that will not, there is no return type. Under that void, that public method block, we have passed a message. Another public method we have created, and in the place of that parameter, that the previous example, that previous method that we have created, within that round braces, we haven't passed anything, passed any parameters or arguments. But in that public void speed method, we have passed a parameter. And how to pass a parameter? Same thing, that same as the variable declaration. You need to give a data type, the integer or string or anything, and max speed is the name of your variable. That's how you can pass a parameter within the method, and within the round braces, whatever you are passing, that is called as parameter. One parameter I have passed within that method, and within that method another, that is also a void method. That means that is not, don't have a return type. System data within that method block, we have written system out of printed, and max speed is that message within the double quote, that will be printed as it is, plus max speed, that parameter name I have called. But that parameter that we have declared, I haven't give any value here. Where should I give? Public static void main. After creating the method, after declaring the parameters and all, after that we are creating the main method for that class. Public static void main string args. Under the main method block, we are creating an object for that class main. Main mycar equals to new main. I have created an object for that class. Now we are calling mycar dot full throttle, that first method, that public method. Just why we are calling that using object name? Because we have created that method as public method. That's why without object we can't call. That's why we are using that object name. That mycar is the object name dot full throttle. I am calling that method, and that will return you that message. That under the method block, that message is available, so that will return you that message. Again, mycar dot speed, I'm calling that speed method, and that public speed method having a parameter. That means for that parameter I haven't passed the argument. For that my max speed parameter, I haven't passed any argument. That means for that max speed, I have declared the data type as an integer. That means I need to pass a value or a passed argument for that integer type argument for that max speed parameter. So here in the time of calling of that method, mycar.speed, we are declaring the arguments as integer type, that is 200. Okay, so what will be the output? So what will be the output? So whenever I will execute that program, what will be the output? What will be the output? Anyone can tell me? Hello? Hello? Are you listening? What will be the output? Can anyone
Yes,
tell?
sir.
Yes, sir.
Anyone tell me?
So the car is going as fast as it can. So then
Then
So
the
then in
Max.
next line, max speed is 200.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to the next topic. That is the explanation. That is the explanation. We created a custom main class with a class keyword. We created a full throttle and speed method in the main class. The full throttle method and the speed method will print out some text when they are called. The speed method accepts an integer parameter called max speed. We will use it in order to use the main class and its method. We need to create an object for the main class. Then go to main method, which you know by now is a built-in Java method that runs your program. Any code inside main is executed. By using the new keyword, we created an object with the name myCar. Then we call the full throttle and speed method on the myCar object. That means using the myCar object, we call that two method, that two public method, and run the program using the name of the object myCar, followed by the dot. That means what? Object name dot method name, followed by the name of the method full throttle and speed 200. Notice that we added an integer parameter of 200 inside the speed method, right? That is the explanation. And remember, the dot is that dot that dot you are using where? That is that object name my obj dot the method name. That dot is used to access the object's attribute and method. To call a method in Java, write the method name followed by the set parenthesis. To call the method in Java, write the method name followed by the set of parentheses. That is the round braces or the parentheses followed by a semicolon. A class must have the matching class file name main and main.java. That means in the first session, in the very beginning, we have learned that whatever the class name will be, that file name should be same. That means main is the class name, the file name. When I will save that program, that time I need to name that file name as main that matched with the class name .java is the extension. See that public class main, public class main, public void full throttle, system.out.println, the car is going as fast as it can. Public void speed integer max speed, system.out.println max speed is max speed. Look at that. That two public method we have created in a class main. Again, another class we are creating. Class second, public static void main string args main myCar equals to new main myCar dot full throttle myCar dot speed. Now, I'm working with the two classes in a class method. That is the public method. One is the full throttle, one is the speed method. Another class is the second class. In that second class, I have declared that actual main class. Under that second class, we are creating the object for that main class. Object of that main class. Why we are creating that? We are creating object for that main class because using that object name full throttle method and that speed method. Okay? In the second class, that is the actual main class for that name main class, and using that object name, we are calling that method. That method is available in the main class. myCar dot full throttle. We are calling that name myCar dot speed 200. That means for that particular parameter, we need to pass the argument or pass the value for that parameter. That's why when the time of calling of that method using the object name, we are passing the value. Is that program clear to you all? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now the Java constructor. I've already told you what is the constructor. Now let me explain it again. Java constructor. A constructor in Java is a special method that is used to initialize objects. The class is created. It can be used to set initial values for object attribute. So what is the definition of that object? That two line is the definition of, sorry, what is the definition of constructor? What is a constructor? If someone is asking you what is constructor, simply say that a constructor is in Java is a special method that is used to initialize objects. A constructor is called when an object of a class is created. Look at that. One thing notice. Constructor is a special method. Maybe it's a special method, but why it makes special? Because that constructor having the same name with the class name, right? Now notice full throttle is a method, speed is a method. The two method we have created. And in the time of that method, in the time when we are learning that method, that time we have learned that until and unless we are not calling that method will not return you anything. That means we are creating a method. After creating the method, we need to call that method. Then it will return you something. Whatever the data will be available there, that data you will get as a return, as an output. Until and unless you are not calling that method, you will not get any output. That means that constructor is also special type of method, but it is a method. That means that constructors also have to be called, then you will get the output, right? But the difference between that normal method and that constructor method is you need to call it in a separate line, either using the object, or if it is a public method, that means you need to use that object name for calling the method in a separate line. Or if it is a static method, that means you don't need any object, you just use in a separate line, just call the method name and you will get the output, right? But when you are working with the constructor, that constructor don't need to call it in a separate line, but you are calling that when you are calling your constructor in the time of object creation. Look at that. You are calling your constructor where? In the time of object creation. Where? Try to notice. Class name. What is the syntax of object creation? Class name, object name equals to new keyword. Now here the constructor name you are mentioning. That means here you are calling your constructor. That is new. And one thing, that constructor, that program, are you able to see any kind of program, any kind of method that name as main? Can you see any method is there? No, there is no method that is invisible. That constructor for that main method, like main class, and for that second class, if you are working with 100 class, that means each and every class having that constructor, and that is invisible. Remember one thing, whenever you are creating the class, directly or indirectly, invisibly, you are creating the constructor with creating that class. That means maybe you are not able to see the constructor, but that constructor is there, that is invisible. In the time of creating the class, you are creating the constructor as well, but you can see that construct in the class that we can't see, that is invisible. That method, constructor special method, you are calling where? You are calling when you are creating the object. Here you are calling your constructor. Here you are calling your constructor. Now see the example. Is it clear? Whatever I have told you, is it clear to everyone? Or you got that? What is the constructor? When you are creating the constructor, when you are calling the constructor, is that clear? Hello? Is it clear, everyone?
Yes.
Now, public class main integer x. Public main x equals to 5. What I have done? A class attribute or a instance variable I have declared integer x, but no value I have declared. Public main, that is what? Public main, that is what? What is that? Public main. Simply say this is a constructor having the same name. Look at that, class main, public main. Then they have the you are getting have you seen that parenthesis? That round braces is there. That means this is a method, and that means same name. That means this is the constructor. And why we are creating that constructor? In the previous example, when we are we haven't seen that we are calling a constructor here. But why we are creating the constructor here? Why we are declaring a constructor here? Because now we want to give a separate, like the method, like the simple normal, like that method, full throttle. We are passing system out of println because this is a void method. But when it is an integer method, public int full throttle, that means I'm giving an integer type return type, right? That means that will return you a integer type data. That means we are storing integer type data into that particular method, or we are passing parameters into that round braces within that parenthesis. That means for that constructor also we can pass some value, we can store some value, we can give a parameter as a give some parameter also. So we can give a parameter, or we can set an initial value to that constructor. For that reason we are declaring that, or we are mentioning, we are making that visible. We are not creating, because in the time of class creation of that class you are creating that constructor as well, but that constructor is invisible. But we are making that constructor visible here, because so we can assign an initial value for that integer x under the constructor. So we are making that constructor visible, so we can give our initial value to that x under the constructor. Under the constructor x equals to 5, right? Public static void main string args main my obj new main. That is what in the object creation time we are calling the constructor. System.out.println and my obj.x. When I am calling that, using that object name, I'm calling that x. That means I'm calling that x in the class, at class block, that variable we have declared, and that variable we have declared in the class block, but the value I have assigned, whenever I will call that my obj.x, that will return you that 5. That value I have assigned under the constructor. Is it clear? Is that program clear to you all? Please execute that program. First of all, do this, then do this. Is it clear, everyone? Or if anyone having any doubt, if you are not understanding, please let me know. I will explain that again. Hello? Hello, everyone. Are you getting that? Or you are not? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Everyone is not responding. Why you guys are not responding? I'm asking you again and again, and no one is responding. Do I need to explain that again?
No, sir.
Please, everyone, please execute that program.
Okay, sir.
Sir, it gives 5. Hello?
Is it done, everyone? Hello? Hello, everyone, done?
Hello?
Yeah, is it done?
Yes, sir. Sir, it gives only 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now the constructor parameters. Constructor can also take parameter, which is used to initialize attribute. Like the previous code, if you can see before the constructor, what is that parameter? That speed having a parameter as integer max speed. That method has. And that parameter value I have passed in the time of when I'm calling that parameter, when I'm calling that method, that time I'm passing that parameters value. Like the same constructor also a method. Maybe it is a special method, but it is also a method. That means that constructor also we can pass parameter into that constructor. So how we can? Public class main int x, public main, that is a constructor integer y, and that y I am storing into that x equals to y. Into that x I am calling under the constructor, and I am assigning that y to that x. So if I call that x, that will return what? Y. And where I am here, I have just passed the parameter to that constructor main. That constant into that constructor I have passed as an integer type parameter name is y, but I have given any value. Okay, and that parameter we have passed here, that parameter we have assigned to integer x, that into that instance variable. That means whenever I will call that x, that will return you the value of that parameter. So here I have been declared the value. So where I need to declare the value, in the previous example of method, we are declaring the parameters, and where we are giving the value in the time when we are calling the method, that time by using the object like my obj dot method name, that we are calling the method, that time within the round braces we are giving the value. That time the same in the time of calling that constructor, we need to give the value. And where we are calling the constructor, we are calling the constructor in the time of object creation. A constructor we can call, don't need to call a constructor separately. We are calling the constructor where we are calling the constructor in the time of object creation. That means when in the time of object creation, that time we are calling, that means that time we need to give the value. So what is the public static void main string edges? That is what? That is the main method. Under that, we are creating the object main my obj equals to new mean that constructor. Here we are calling the constructor. That means here we are calling the constructor method. That means here we need to pass the value. So within that round braces, we are passing the value as 5. That means that 5 stored into that x, because I are into under the constructor, I have assigned that value of x equals to value of y. That value of y I have assigned to that value of x, and that for that integer y parameter I need to pass the value. When I can pass the value in the time of calling of method, that means we are calling the constructor where in the time of object creation. We are calling the method constructor in the time of object creation. That means in that time we need to pass the parameter value. So we are passing the value of 5 here in the object creation time, because only the constructor can be called in the time of object creation. Now we are just simply writing system.out.println object name, and then we are calling that x. Okay, so that will return you that into that x I have stored the value of y, and that value of y I have assigned where in the time of calling of that constructor. So it will return you 5. Is it clear? Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Another example, and like that in the normal method we can pass single parameter. In the normal method we can pass multiple parameters, right? Multiple parameter means more than one parameter we can pass into that method. Like the same in the constructor also we can pass many parameters into the constructor. Public class main int model year. What is that? This is the variable. String model name. This is the another variable. Two variable I have declared. One is integer type, one is string type. One name is model year, one name is model name. Public main int year string name. What is that? Public main, that line is what? That line is what? Hello, that line is what? That line is the constructor. Public main, that line is the constructor, that main method, that is the constructor having same name main. And under that round braces we are passing two parameters. That two variable we have third parameters, we are passing two parameters, integer year, string name. In the previous example we have two parameters, one is integer, one is string, one is integer year, one is string name. Now in the previous example I have done the same thing, declare a variable, and that parameter we have stored into that variable. Like the same I am doing, that model year and that parameter year having the same data type, that is integer type, right? That's why into that model year I am assigning that parameter here, that model name and that name, both the data type is same, that is a string type. That's why we are storing the model name into that model name, we are storing the name parameter. Because that data type should be matched. Otherwise, into that int variable, we can't pass string parameters, because an integer variable cannot store a string value. A string value variable cannot store a integer value. A integer variable cannot store a string value. A string variable cannot store a integer value. That means both the data type have to be same. That's why into that model year having integer data type, I am passing the year parameter also having the integer data type. I am into that model name, I am assigning that name parameter having the same data type. After that, same thing, that both the parameters I have declared but no value I have assigned. So when I will declare the value in the time of calling of the constructor, and where we are calling the constructor in the time of object creation. Under the main method block, we are creating the object for that main class. Main my car equals to new main. Under that round braces, two parameter we need to pass. One is year, that is the integer type I have declared 1969, and another parameter having string data type, that is mustang, that I have put it under the double quotes, that is a string data type. After declaring the parameter attribute or parameter value, now we are calling that to name. System.out.println my car is what? Object name dot model year plus double quotes space plus the concatenation symbol my car dot model name. That means that will return you that is 1969 space Mustang. That will return you as an output. Is that program clear to you all?
Yes,
Hello.
sir.
Okay. And any others, anyone having any issue into that, up to that constructor part have been completed, and that constructor part a little bit difficult if that was. So anyone having any issue? Anyone is having any facing any issue in understanding? Anyone is not getting, please let me know before finishing the constructor chapter. Everyone, that means no one is answering, that means no one having any issue, right? Okay, so that was the last example and that was the last topic. In the next session we'll start from the Java modifiers. Okay, so thank you for attending the session, and try to practice whatever the code we have done in the during the session today. Try to practice it many times. Try to practice more example for the constructor and all, and in the next session we'll start from the Java modifiers. Okay, so thank you for attending the class. I'm ending the session here.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hmm,
Thank you,
thank-
Suresh.